Hello, this is Survivor Tech Harold here with you today. What we're going to do is make some char from the pith of the mullein plant. If you're familiar with the mullein, they grow in most places across the country except maybe the southwest. The other day I ran into a very large mullein stalk. It's left over from last year, so it's all dried and cracked and showing its age, but it'll work real well for what we intend to do today. When you break this stalk inside, this interior part here is pith. It's very, very soft and sponge-like. What we want to do is separate it out from the outer bark, which is pretty easy to do. To get larger pieces, I'm going to use my little pocket knife here a little bit to pry it loose. Just stick it in along the side. You can get it out in pieces. I like to get larger pieces, so like that is ideal. We're going to break those up. Got a small char tin today. This is a metal can from a can of pellets for a pellet gun. We have a small pinhole there in the top. We're going to fill it with these pieces the best we can. This is one of the fastest charring things I've ever seen. People like to do char cloth, of course, but you don't always have cloth to tear up. Punk wood works very well, but it can be wet and hard to find sometimes, and it takes much longer for it to char. That's pretty good. We've got a pretty good little can full there right now. What we're going to do, put the lid on it. Now we got to start us a fire. And for that, we're going to use fat wood. Got a piece of premium fat wood here. I'm going to change knives. I'm going to go to my Swiss Army knife. I'm going to take the saw blade, my Swiss Army knife, the back of the blade. I'm going to use the back of the blade and just scrape this fat wood. We've got a nice little pile of nice gooey fat wood there. Will take a spark very well. Now we're going to go to the blade and cut off a few shavings. A little bit coarser than what we just did. Now those will burn very well to get this fire started. I'm going to move this fine stuff onto this dry leaf so we can transfer it to the fire stove when it's lit. I'm going to use the ferro rod for this. Small 3-inch ferro rod. And again, we're going to go to the saw blade, the back side for scraping. Put your thumb on the edge of the blade. That easy. Move it to in the stove. Drop in the bigger pieces. Now we're going to add some small pieces of wood. Love the smell of that fat wood burning. Now we're going to take our char tin. We're just going to set her right there on top. Let her cook for a few minutes. Still got plenty of fat wood there to start many fires. When our char is cooked there, we're going to use our flint and steel. Get a spark on it. For the steel, I've got a homemade steel here from a piece of an old file. It's a Nicholson file. Makes the best flint sparker you can find. With that, we're going to use a piece of chert that I've found right here locally. When your tin quits smoking, it's done. The pinhole in the top will exhaust all the smoke and gases that burn off. When that stops, it's ready to go. Which I believe it's already done. We're going to turn it upside down so no oxygen can go inside in the hole to make it burn. Let it cool off. It'll just take it a minute to cool on this, sitting on this cool metal. This is probably one of our last t-shirt days for the fall here. Really nice. Some of the best weather of the year. You want to let that cool down so you can handle it. Well, let's set the place on fire here. We got leaves, dry leaves all everywhere. It's almost cool enough to open. If you open it while it's too hot and the oxygen hits your char will burn. This stalk is big enough and still has enough pith in it to make a lot of char, last a long time. We're going to use leaves for a tinder bundle. Let me get a handful. I can feel a little moisture on these leaves from the dew this morning, so they may be a little stubborn. I'm going to pack them down best I can. Our tin's pretty cool. That's what we got now. It's all charred well. I'm going to take my striker, my piece of chert, Nice sharp edge. You're going to try to hold it so the sparks go down into the tin. Okay, we got ignition. Let her get going there a little bit. Now that char does burn up a lot quicker than punk wood does. You have to be prepared with your bundle and everything set ready to go, and you'll be fine. Just use a nice big piece, and if you have to, add another piece in as you go so it will ignite and keep the coals going.